Thank you very much and welcome everybody. Today I'm going to share with you how two entities, namely VeChain and DMV, believes that blockchain could be a perfect solution for helping enterprise and societies at large in tackling the sustainability challenge. I'm Renato Grottola. I'm currently both member of the steering committee of VeChain Foundation and global director for growth and innovation in DMV. Just a few words about who DMV and VeChain are. DMV is one of the largest trust and assurance provider in the world. DMV is owned 100% by a foundation which was established in 1864, and the mission of the foundation is safeguarding life, property, environment, 864. We operate in multiple sectors, and what we are trying to do with VeChain is to digitalize our trust provision activities, our assurance activities, benefiting of exponential technologies. VeChain is a layer 1 blockchain entity, is a layer 1 blockchain platform, which is managed by VeChain Foundation, headquartered in San Marino, currently moving headquarters from Singapore to San Marino, and operating all over the world with a growing team which is taking care of future development of VeChain Tor blockchain platform and future development of the ecosystem. Today we are going to talk about what a digital ecosystem is, just to create a common background, why digital ecosystems are becoming more and more important in relation to the sustainability challenge, and then we are going to share, I'm going to share with you our DMV and VeChain common vision about how ecosystem and blockchain powered ecosystem could help companies in facing sustainability challenges. We're going to talk a bit about VeChain blockchain technology, why this technology is peculiar and particularly useful for managing and setting up this kind of sustainability-driven ecosystem. And lately, I'm going to share some use cases with you. Let's start from the beginning. I mean, in theoretical terms, a digital ecosystem is a specific organizational model which is involving and allowing individual enterprises and other kind of stakeholders to share value across a common objective, a common aim. An ecosystem is made by a number of features and components which are all bundled around a common value proposition. And obviously, digital technologies plays a fundamental role in connecting all these components according to specific needs, which are supported by specific functionalities. Here you could find a very descriptive slides about the kind of actors that normally are part of an ecosystem. You normally have a sponsor, meaning someone who wants to set up an ecosystem to achieve a specific goal. You have a platform provider that is powering the ecosystem with a specific technology infrastructure. You may have an enabler of the platform, and then a number of adopters, users, which are providing use case and using the use cases in order to let the ecosystem be operational. There are a few principles that are underlying any kind of ecosystem. First of all, there should be standards which are shared across all kinds of participants. Rules of participation must be clear and agreed. The ecosystem could be more or less open in terms of possibility for players to be part of it with different roles. And obviously, the ecosystem should be powered by the network effect, which could be direct or indirect. Let's enter a bit into some more principles. When we talk about ecosystem, we should be aware that we are today dealing on a daily basis with certain kind of ecosystem which are really peculiar. Here you find 3 examples of the so-called digital platform, which in reality are different kind of ecosystem characterized by certain specific peculiarities. First of all, if we take the first 2, you immediately understand that these are closed system in some way. So you have a closed system which is managed and governed by the platform provider in itself, with therefore a degree of openness which is quite minimal. The third one is a different kind of ecosystem in which you still have a platform provider, but the degree of openness is much wider. Well, these are examples of current ecosystems. We want to talk about something a bit wider, a bit more wild. Why ecosystems are getting more and more important? This is one of the possible reasons, one of the possible examples. Take, for example, supply chain. Okay? Supply chain were so far so-called linear. They were made by a series of players that were interacting one with each other in a linear way. Now, due to a number of needs that are coming from the market, the industry, consumers, supply chain are getting more and more complex. The role of technology is basically transforming supply chain from something which was clearly a linear sequence of transaction between players into an ecosystem in which interaction are needed between players that were not knowing each other in the past. And this is placing a number of challenges to the industry because basically players which were not trusting each other needs to be in touch in order to be able to bring a product to a consumer. It's no longer possible to manage this kind of supply chain in an effective and an efficient way using traditional business models. You need to go towards ecosystem-centric business model. That's an example which has very little to do with digital, but could find a solution using digital technologies to support the implementation of similar business models. To recap, therefore, the elements which are making an ecosystem viable and meaningful are a few ones. First of all, you need to have a common value proposition which is uniting stakeholders against a common purpose. You need to have a rule of participation clear and transparent. You need to be able to share across all participants both cost and value in a fair way. Okay? So far, you can't do this by thinking to set up an ecosystem using traditional organizational model. These kind of models are, by definition, much less hierarchical than a company and much more decentralized than a company is. So let's try to connect dots and let's try to understand why we are talking today in a blockchain conference about ecosystems. Well, if you look at the technology, at distributed ledger technology, from a principal point of view, you could start connecting what I said so far with what the technology is. First of all, DLTs, blockchain in common terms, is by definition a decentralized technology which is allowing peer-to-peer interaction. So, for example, if you connect this concept to the concept of the supply chain, you will see that implementing a model based on a blockchain solution could easily allow players to interact, which means share information, but maybe ultimately also sharing some form of value through a technology which allows this by nature. Second element, you need to be able to share, I said, across participants value. Well, another feature of blockchain technologies, such as tokenization, the possibility to mint NFT, gives the possibility at the same time to transfer and move value across players, but also to give an identity to player itself. Another important element. Third element, smart contract. We were talking about rules of participation, very clear and fair. Smart contracts are a fantastic possibility to implement agreed rules in a fair way. Fourth element, decentralized autonomous organization. Well, rule of participation could no longer be decided by one player, but could be built with the consensus of a balanced interest of all stakeholders, not only developers, everybody. So I hope that we are start connecting the need of ecosystem, which is a societal need, with the importance and the power of blockchain in relation to this ecosystem as well. Let's now do a quantum leap jump. Let's move to another topic, sustainability. Well, first of all, we all live in a world in which the sustainability challenge is getting more and more important. And the sustainability challenge is, by definition, something that you cannot trap into a very well-defined frame. It affects us on every kind of dimension. We do not talk only about environmental needs. We talk about governance needs. We talk about societal needs. It's a challenge which is encompassing our entire life. And it's something which we need to do, we need to address soon. Part of this is related to the ability to stop consumption of material, to move from another model compared to the linear one. Let me, here I was sharing 3 different facts that may trigger your interest depending upon your perception. But let me jump to this fundamental slide. The solution to the sustainability challenge is not just one. It's a combination of a number of transformations that our society should deal with. And these transformations are very complex, are very interrelated, and have to happen almost at the same time. First, transformation. We need to use less material. And we need to slow down the supply chain. That means that we need to make sure that our business model are no longer only able to bring a product from the manufacturer to the consumers, but should be able to bring back the product when the life cycle of the product is expiring back to the manufacturer in order to allow utilization of material. First element. So we need to close the supply chain loops. We need to make the supply chain circular. We need to create an ecosystem for managing this transition. Second challenge, we need to decarbonize. That means that, it's not only about moving from fossil to renewable energy. It's also about to be much more efficient, to be able to reduce the energy consumption. We need probably to incentivize people, stakeholders at large, in managing this process. Third element, we are living in a society in which owning something, owning a car, owning an apartment, owning a phone is the mantra. Well, we need to think about moving from owning to sharing. And this requires the possibility to find ways of managing where the asset is in a much better and efficient way. Fourth element, we need to learn from nature. We need to implement models which are demonstrating how efficient they are. Think about how we live. Okay? We need to be able to apply biomimicry in designing new business model. And we need to look at the ecosystem in a different way. Why DNV and VeChain believes that joining forces, they could help society in tackle this challenge? First of all, we believe that DLT is by nature the best technology that could power ecosystems which are driven, which have as a common value, as a common aim, the possibility to tackle in some form the sustainability challenge. Because this technology, and in particular VeChain Tor technology, allows for using a public blockchain accessible by everyone, but permissioned, meaning with some governance rule, with a bit of centralization, which helps in making process more efficient and more effective, but mostly open source. Everybody could contribute by playing different role, by adding value, by developing decentralized app. Second element, a blockchain like that is much more able than any other kind of digital platform to reduce the risk related to privacy and also to reduce the risk of censorship. And this is extremely important when we talk about this kind of challenges. Third element, as I mentioned before, is about the tokenomics, the possibility to easily create and share any form of value, not only a monetary value. For example, we could think of linking to any kind of product its carbon footprint first, to make people aware of what is the impact on society of that product. And in a second moment, if the manufacturer, for example, is able to reduce the carbon footprint, we could, using sharing of value, we could link to a product a number of credits related, for example, to CO2 saving, and share this credit using the feature of tokenomics across participants. And we may find, for example, a sponsor who is willing to promote this, who is really willing to back these credits with some form of monetary value, thus creating a resonance positive effect. Fourth element, the possibility to share any kind of value through tokenomics gives also the possibility to set up incentive mechanism that could enroll and engage participants much better than any other existing business model. If we want to customize this ecosystem concept to the sustainability arena, let's look at this specific flow. And let's see how blockchain and VeChain Tor blockchain could help in this transformation. First element, we need to be in a position to acquire data from the real world. Real world meaning supply chains, manufacturers, consumers, communities, and cities. Obviously, this is the basic feature of any kind of DLT platform, the possibility to keep this data and guarantee at the same time verificability of data and immutability of this data. There's a small element here which we should not forget. We are not talking about digital data that are born and sourced in the digital space. We talk about real data, data that are acquired from the real world. There is a need there to make sure that when you are taking decisions in the digital space using data that are acquired from the real world, these data are entered into a proper way. There's a need to make sure that Oracle are acting in this moment to make sure that you don't lose the connection, the connection of truth between the physical world and the real world. Second element in this process is the ability to use this data to quantify, for example, the impact of a product. the sustainability impact of a product or the sustainability impact of a behavior. So you need to be able to use the data that you have acquired and to, via smart contract, for example, define what is the carbon footprint of a product, what is the water footprint of a product, in order to be able to measure the, let's call it, societal impact of an action or the footprint of a product in a precise and trustable way. Third element, when you are in a position to know precisely what is the footprint of a product, you could link to this product any form of value. So if that product has been manufactured, using less resources, so using less water or using less CO2, this saving is a form of value. And using two different technologies, for example, NFTs from one side, which are giving an identity to a product, you could link to the NFT some tokens which is representing the externality reduction and inject into an ecosystem this form of value. Fourth element, you could, as I said before, use this form of value in order to share them across participants, creating all engagement mechanisms that are making sure that the number of adopters of these solutions will increase, and therefore there will be a positive network effect. Let's move on. In order to be able to set up similar digital blockchain ecosystem, you need three different ingredients. First of all, you need a focused level 1 technology, a dedicated technology which is enabling the possibility to use this feature into this environment. Second element, you need trust. Trust is a very important resource, a very important and costly resource. And trust is the ingredient of any kind of interaction. In order an interaction to take place, the trust should be at a cost which is affordable. So this kind of technology should be able to reduce the cost of trust and make sure that you could accept a transaction in a trusted way at an acceptable cost. Third element, it's not only about being able to deploy and to develop a good level 1 platform. It's not only about development. It's not only about software development. You need to combine two different kinds of knowledges. One about technology, the other one about sustainability. That's the reason why DNV and VeChain have been joining forces on this challenge. And we have done this since the beginning of 2017 through a number of steps that are getting more and more concrete and are turning into a series of deliverable of product prototypes that are all sharing the same vision. This is a partnership which is a long-term partnership. I mean, we should not rush. This is a challenge which will engage the entire society for the next decades. So here, we have time in front of us, and we should try to stay away from rushing because it's important just to make an announcement. Let me go into some further detail. First of all, I said that one of the most important ingredients in this equation is to have a suitable level 1 technology. We believe VeChain is that suitable technology for three different reasons. First of all, the governance which is behind the blockchain platform itself, and in particular, the consensus mechanism which is used that is making blockchain one of the greenest blockchain platform in itself. Second element, we believe that the role of a blockchain entity, governing entity, should be to make sure that users, developers, and adopters are finding this technology easy to be implemented. And there are a number of initiatives that are trying to address this need. Third element, obviously, the layer 1 technology should be in a position to support all those features which are essential for a specific use case to be implemented. What is our vision about that? Well, first of all, VeChain, together with DNV, wants to become the layer 1 technology that is basically the natural choice for tackling any kind of sustainability-related challenge. Second element, Web3 and decentralized autonomous organization are key in order to implement this vision, because are key in order to implement successful ecosystem. In order to do this, 3 elements are required. First of all, a sustainable infrastructure. The infrastructure itself should be in line with the vision. Second element, you need to develop a number of specific technology features. Third element, you need to trigger the discussion. So you need to be able to start and start operating examples of sustainable ecosystems. Let's enter into a bit more detail for each of these categories. First element, this is the technology roadmap of VeChain Tor platform. And this technology roadmap is following 3 different streams. First of all, you can't be the by nature choice of sustainability-related solutions if you are not walking the talk. So the first stream is trying to make sure that when VeChain is utilized as a technology, first of all, is utilized and is creating a lower footprint than any other comparable technology. Second element, since VeChain is used by society, adopters, users, and enterprises, VeChain should be in a position to provide this stakeholder with the exact quantification of what the VeChain is affecting their own carbon footprint. Third element, this information should be shareable, and in order to make this process as much as transparent as possible. Second stream, you need to trigger the discussion, you need to enable the stakeholders to use this technology, but you can't be alone. You need also to make sure that your community progressively is aligning their own efforts to support the development of those features which are needed for any kind of sustainability-related solutions. Third element, you should incentivize and promote the delivery of a number of applications that are in line with this vision. And here you find a set of examples of deliverable and solutions that will be delivered either by VeChain Foundation or by the DNV and VeChain Foundation or by other players. And this kind of solution are basically related to the real world, are affecting problems that are daily life, for example, in supply chains. A few words about why I'm saying that VeChain Tor as a blockchain is the natural choice. I said we need to walk the talk, and this is an example. So the entire consumption of VeChain Tor blockchain for 1 year is equal currently to only 2.4% of the energy which is needed in order to mine a single Bitcoin. First comparison element. Second element, the total consumption of electricity, which is done by the network, is equal to 4.3 Bitcoin transactions. Third element is just a comparison with another layer 1 in terms of what is the energy consumption required for one transaction compared to a peer layer 1 platform. We believe that the lower transaction cost, but also the lower transaction footprint, are two fundamental elements and pillars to make this technology accessible to everyone. A first concrete outcome of this all-in action on sustainability is represented by the fact that starting from 2023, the VeChain Explorer will be able to show the carbon footprint of all the 101 authority nodes, and will be able to associate to every single transaction the carbon footprint of that transaction, thus allowing the user and the enterprise to embed this calculation into their own footprint calculation. Let's now enter into a few examples. Time is running, so I will have to fast. I will provide some suggestion of what is already done and what we are going to do together with VeChain in DNV in order to tackle those elements that I've been mentioning so far. First example. We talk about the need of reducing CO2 emissions, but there are other needs in the society at large. For example, we need to reduce the plastic, and in particular, we need to make sure that this plastic is moved out from oceans, because this is a big problem. Oceans and rivers. We have done, and when I say we, I'm referring to both DNV and VeChain, two different projects with two entities, the ocean cleanup from one side and receive from another side, which were all aiming at making sure that when you are moving out plastic from the oceans, you are not just greenwashing, but you are really moving out the plastic from the ocean. So we have been using VeChain to put in place a system for ensuring traceability of the plastic removed either from oceans or from river. This is just the first step. The second step has been to develop a solution which is basically able to use this traceability and to make sure that this plastic is going in the right place and is not altered in terms, for example, of mass balance. So only the plastic you are gathering from oceans are really used by, for example, a retailer or a consumer product manufacturers to produce something which contains that plastic. Third element, which is going to be delivered, is basically to quantify the contribution of this initiative in terms of plastic that could be therefore reused and which therefore do not require utilization of further material, creating an offsetting which instead of offsetting CO2 is offsetting plastic production. This element is now at a prototype level and will be delivered in the next months. And this credit will be traded between stakeholders in order to manage their offsetting initiatives. Another example has to do with the possibility to quantify the footprint of a product and also qualifying that footprint. We are in the process of delivering an NFT product passport. What does it really mean? That means that we will be able to give an identity to each product using serialization, and to link to this product certain measures and certain values which are related to the reduction of the externalities. So if a product is manufactured with less CO2 or less water consumption, this saving is tokenized in credits like the ones related to plastic, and these credits could be shared. So this is a combined usage of NFT and tokenizations. So far, we have been in the position to show transparency of supply chain. So, I mean, we are in a position to demonstrate the origin of products and the footprint of the product. We are in the process with 2 players to deliver first a footprint calculator, and third, the possibility to tokenize these externality savings. Another example which we have been delivering to 2 real estate players which are under an NDA agreement are related to the possibility to use the same technology to basically map what is in a real estate building in terms of asset, measure all energy consumption related to these assets, and basically promote energy saving initiatives on the basis of the data that are gathered real time. We did perform the feasibility study on this for one of these 2 players, and we are in the process of realizing a carbon credit platform which is going to be used by this player. Last element, it is at the concept stage. It's about applying this logic to in the fashion industry, trying to promote as much as possible the circularization of the supply chain through the combined effect of NFTs that are giving to clothes a digital identity, and incentivization to consumers. So far, we have been working very hard on making sure that we are in a position to track and trace the origin of each component and its footprint. The next step, which is going to be designed in the upcoming months of 2023, will be to put in place a bring back program through a dedicated ecosystems. Time is running, so I hope I've been able to give you a suggestion or a perception of what we could do out of the fintech world by using DLTs. We have time for questions, if any, and I will be very happy to give you further information about it. I need to wear the... Give me a second, I need to wear...
Good afternoon. Can you please tell us what's your plan for the ocean cleanup, that project?
First of all, I cannot disclose specific plans for specific initiative, but I could tell you that the next step in the plastic removal process will be to tokenize these credits, both in terms of plastic credits and CO2 credits, and put in place an incentive mechanism for example, in river for fishermen, which will get this credit as an incentive to further engage them in plastic removal.
Hi, thank you very much for the sharing. I would like to know when you are mentioning about the carbon footprint, you do need to measure them as the first step, right?
Yes.
So I would like to know what are the partners that you're looking for the first step of measuring the carbon footprint.
Yeah, I mean, DNV has the knowledge to provide this kind of assessment, verification, and calculation features.
So which means like for your own organization is already implemented with the technology for measuring the carbon footprint itself.
Yeah, I mean, you have to divide this in two steps.
Mm-hmm.
First steps is the possibility to quantify, so to measure. Second element, how to make sure that this process is as much as possible automated. These are two different steps.
Mm-hmm.
Put in place carbon footprint calculation is one element. Making it viable and scalable is another one. And digital technologies are helping making sure that you could apply this logic as much as possible into the real life in a scalable way.
Mm-hmm. So if coming back to the ocean plastic project, so when you mentioned about the GPS to locate the position of the plastic, is it, I would like to know, is it more about when you trace it, it's a way to find like how the plastic flow from the source to the ocean so that you can have follow-up measures about like what actions to take because most of them are going to this direction of the ocean?
No, in that case, the need is a trust need. So these initiatives are supposed to produce a strong communication impact. Okay, there have been cases of initiatives. I'm not referring to those I have mentioned that were basically making fake statements. So they were basically adding more plastic than the one was really collected from the rivers or from the oceans. So this element, this technology solution, helps and makes sure that those who are applying it are, able to prove to the society at large that that plastic was only removed from rivers or from oceans, rather than simply added to an existing batch of plastic that were coming from there. So it's more tracking the origin and making sure that that plastic is coming from the river or is coming from the ocean.
I see. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. Okay, many thanks.
No more questions. Thank you.